Hey everyone, today's podcast is sponsored by AMAC, the only conservative alternative to AARP, that other group. Join today at amac.us/Carter. Very excited about today's episode. Why? Because guess what? The election is pretty much here. I voted last week. I went in, I did an Instagram post. I was like, I am ready. I'm ready to go. Let's vote. And I felt like there was a surge of people showing up at this little small polling place here in Texas where I live, and everybody was raring to vote. And you know what? I don't even care. Well, we can't care of who they voted for. I was just so happy to see so many Americans doing their civic duty and getting out and voting. And right now, those numbers are through the roof. I mean, we are really looking at a lot of voter turnout, and the early voting numbers are in, and they're really high. In fact, right now, they're more than 2018. And so anyways, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that more and more people will get out there and vote. And today's episode is special because I'm joined by Connecticut Senate candidate Leora Levy, and I'm so excited to have her on. I've been wanting to do this interview with her for a while. She is a American-Cuban descent, and she is an amazing woman who is just raring to go, ready to fight for conservative values. And we also have with us Arizona House candidate Kelly Cooper. He is awesome. Wait until you hear him talk. He's great. I mean, this guy, just like Leora, is just getting ready to take on the fight. And, you know, both of them right now, I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it, right? It's tomorrow. I mean, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat. As they're calling. I mean, we got to go to an election party or something, right? I've been invited to quite a few election parties. I'm deciding right now, should I go? Do we stay at home? Do we just celebrate? I don't know yet. I'm sure you all have plans for the election tomorrow night. It's just very, very exciting. We'll be diving into so many issues that voters are concerned about, that you are concerned about, right? Inflation, the economy, the border, addiction rates in our nation, fentanyl poisoning in our nation. I mean, we've got a lot of things on our plate. And I think super important, very top of the echelon is our children and their education. I know there's a lot of you out there, moms listening to this right now, and dads too, that are going to be looking at candidates not so much based, right, on their on what political party they're with, although look at what Biden's doing. It's a disaster. So I would say any Democrat who supported Biden out of the picture. But looking at the policies and how to make a difference. And we know that. We know it. You know where we need you to vote to make those differences, right? So, hey, everyone, please follow and subscribe. Get all the links to my social media and everything else at Sara, that's SARA, no H, Carter.com, SaraACarter.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list so that you don't get shadow banned. And so happy now that Elon Musk is now owning Twitter, literally owning them, which is so great. And you know what? I hope he makes it profitable, and I hope he makes it amazing. And I bet you, mark my words, that company will be profitable under Elon Musk. That company will be profitable under Elon Musk. Why? I believe he is the Leonardo da Vinci of our time. And I think the guy can multitask a million things. I just do. Also, please subscribe to my new documentary podcast, Dark Wars, The Border. It has been getting rave reviews, and I know that you will love it as well. Visit our website at darkwarspod.com for the latest information. And that's DARKWARSPOD.com. I take you into the real stories, folks. I take you with me on my journeys to Central America. I take you with me on my journeys to the border. And it's a journey that belongs to you as well. It's not just my journey, it's our journey. You and I together are fighting these lies that our government is telling us. And we together are going to expose the truth and make a difference. And it's right here tomorrow, Tuesday, right? It's going to come. And we are going to make our decisions as Americans to put the people in office that are going to want to protect us and fight for us and fight for our families. I have a big announcement, and it's a MyPillow announcement. Yes. But this time we have a huge sale. Look, Mike Lindell, he is an American patriot. He has an American company. I love his products. I just love the products. They're great. And right now the sale is on, guess what? His towel set. These are bar none the best towels. Granted, I always buy the white towel sets. I just like to be able to wash them in Clorox if they get a stain or whatever. I just like to take care of that. It's the mom in me. It's the mom in me. I want to make it easy. But right now you can get any color you want, any color that suits your fancy or your home. 6-piece towel set. Regularly $89.98. Now the whole 6-piece towel set, $39.98. You just can't beat it. At mypillow.com/Carter. That's mypillow.com/Carter with the promo code Carter. And guess what? You have a 60-day money back guarantee extended. So orders placed between now and 12/25, that's Christmas Day, will have their 60-day money-back guarantee extended through, listen to this, March 1st, 2023. Can't beat it. You just can't beat it. So don't forget, go to mypillow.com, because for a limited time, you will get the MyPillow 6-piece towel set, regularly $89.98, for only $39.98 at mypillow.com/Carter with the promo code Carter. There you'll find deep discounts on all MyPillow products and get your 6-piece MyPillow towel set. Listen to this. You're not going to beat it anywhere. $39.98. Shop mypillow.com/Carter, promo code Carter. That's mypillow.com/Carter. Election day. It's finally here. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be living in a nation where there is a peaceful transition of power. And I believe in this country wholeheartedly. I love the fact that on my mother's side, I am a first generation born. You know, she was an immigrant from Cuba, first generation born here in the United States on my mother's side. And listen to this, on my father's side, I'm a daughter of the revolution. Go figure that, huh? And I love to be in a nation where there are so many different people with so many different ideas, all searching, though, for the same thing. You know what that is? It's freedom. It's freedom. And when I look at the videos, you know, coming out of Iran, out of Tehran, and I see the people marching in the streets, and I see the young girls standing up and throwing off their hijabs, it's that idea of freedom that means so much. It's innate in us as human beings. We don't want a government telling us what to do every step of the way, encroaching in our lives. Our founding fathers, brilliant as they were, created a constitution that I believe was blessed by God, that emphasized liberty and freedom, and that every individual has the right to make their own choices in life and not live under the thumb of a regime or a tyrant or a government that allegedly thinks they know more than you. And I'm talking about the left when I said that, because I don't think all of the Democrats feel that way. At least I hope not. But we've seen what's happened in our own country, what happened with COVID-19, you know, and how so many people so quickly lost their freedom when fear set in. Lesson learned, folks. Lesson learned. You know, there are things worth fighting for in life. Things worth fighting for in life. You know, the other day I was listening to General Bolduc, and it was during his debate last week. And he, you know, ended it with live free or die. You know, obviously the motto of his state, and he's a candidate. I wish him the best of luck, too. But live free or die is very real for so many people all over the world. In North Korea, where people have no access to the outside world for generations, imagine what life is like for them. We've seen some documentaries where people are just dead near the railroad tracks, searching for coal, starving to death. Or in Iran right now, where young girls are being executed, killed. Some of them being held in secret prisons. Why? Because they're showing their hair? For crying out loud. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I spent 7.5 years of my life. It's a monarchy there. I know what it's like to live under these regimes, right? I know what it's like, but not what it's like. Not when you can't leave it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been to Afghanistan. I've seen what life for many women is like under the Taliban. I don't want to hear these crazy feminists here in America that I had to, deal with when I was covering the Supreme Court and the issues. Thankfully, thank God, the Supreme Court went in the right direction when it came to abortion. But saying that we're a nation that doesn't care about its women, doesn't care about human rights, that's such a bunch of bullshit. We are a nation where women can be anything they want to be, where a child and a child's life actually means something. We're a nation where people can have ideas. Yeah, they're all different. And we won't agree with each other all the time, but we can go to the polls and put people into office that actually care about us. People that are supposed to be working for us. That was the intention of our founding fathers and the way this republic was established, that we all should be represented, right? And that those representatives would go to the Capitol to represent us and our wishes and would stand up for the Constitution. And that's what we're going to be doing. When we go to the polls, some of you have already gone like I've gone, or when some of you will be heading to the polls tomorrow, and you're going to be casting your vote. You're going to be doing your civic duty, and you are going to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem, because you took the time to vote. You took the time to make a difference. And when you do that, every single generation, every single person that existed before us, all those people that have given their lives for this nation, all those people that have sacrificed so much to protect our country, you'll be putting that in for them too. You'll be saying, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you've done to protect our nation, going back to its very founding. That's what it means to be an American. That's the reason why our border has thousands of people a day crossing, right? Searching for freedom, searching for a great economy, searching for an opportunity to be something more, to be themselves. What a great blessing it is to be an American. What an amazing gift it is. We are exceptional. Our country is beautiful, and it's beautiful because we are made up of a fabric of so many people, but we all have one thing in common. And I said this at the top of the monologue. We all have a basis and a belief that every human being has the right to be free, has the right to make their own choices, has the right to take care of their family, educate their children, has the fundamental right to live and in liberty and free of tyranny. So excited to have candidate for Arizona's 4th District, Kelly Cooper, on with me. He's a veteran. Thank you so much, Kelly, for serving in the Marine Corps. My father was a Marine Corps veteran, and once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Marine Corps birthday's coming up, Semper Fi, Marines.
Oh man, Semper Fi. I know, because we've been invited. My husband and I go every year. We were, before we moved from Virginia, every year we would go to this big Marine Corps birthday. And I'll just throw in a little bit of that. They have the oldest Marine, right? And the youngest Marine. And I think the oldest Marine, if I'm right, Kelly, cuts the cake, right?
So first piece of cake goes to the oldest. And then they share that as a transition of knowledge to the youngest Marine president. It's all part of the ceremony. Absolutely. We do it at my bar every year. So we're in the middle of planning the Marine Corps birthday right now for one of my places for the 10th. We'll have 150 Marines out. Yeah, it's a great time. Oh, yeah, it's a great time. And it's a time to honor each other, and honor the service of our servicemen and women some of them. And I love the tradition of the Marine Corps with this. My husband's Army. But they don't have this tradition, but where you're honoring the eldest and the youngest. You know what I mean? It's kind of like honoring the future and honoring the past, right? Yeah, well, and that transition of culture is important, both in the Marine Corps and in the United States. It's something that's missing in our education system today, and probably a topic we can address because I think it's one of the biggest issues facing us today. But yeah, that transfer of culture, transfer of knowledge, or at least the symbolization of it in our ceremony is from the oldest to the youngest. And it's so important because as your culture dissipates, your organization begins to fail. And it's one of the things the Marine Corps has done very, very well. Right. And we're all brothers and sisters, so we know that. Well, and that's what's so important here, because you're running in Arizona's 4th district. The race right now, I mean, this is amazing. The incumbent Greg Statton, he's like, you're like right there. You're like ready to pass him up, if not already passing him up. And the thing is, people are seeing what's happening in our country, our loss of respect for our Constitution, the failure of an administration that is not implementing the rule of law and putting all Americans at risk. And you've been up, I mean, this is a down and dirty race. I mean, the way the Democrats have targeted you, because I think they're just, obviously they're terrified. They're terrified of you. So that's what, you're over the target when they start acting like this. Let's talk a little bit about that first, so that everyone out there, so you guys can hear what's happening with Kelly Cooper. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable what you've been through. Yeah, so this race it's a grassroots race. We have a very robust volunteer group. We go out knocking doors. We make phone calls. I'm at events 3, 4, 5 times a day. We are reaching out and touching voters from that perspective. We're being outspent almost 30-1 from DC. Washington's trying to buy this seat. It's one of those seats that they didn't think they had to worry about losing, but their policies are so bad that they can't talk about them, which I think is what you're getting at. So you see the generic attack ads. So they've spent $10 million trying to paint horns and a tail on me. And so when voters meet me, they're like, where are your horns? I'm anti-military as a Marine and endorsed by the Border Patrol, the Arizona Police Association, AZ Cops, and Phoenix Police Sergeant Lieutenants Union. I'm racist, even though I'm 10 years married to my wife, Hispanic. My kids are mix of, I'm kind of a mutt, German, English, Scotch, Irish, and then my wife being Hispanic. Endorsed today by Myra Flores out of Texas. What a blessing to receive her endorsement. I am dangerous and I am extreme. First I was MAGA, then I was ultra MAGA. Now I'm a mega MAGA. So we can see that. What is a mega MAGA? What is, like, your hair? Like, I like what they do now on the internet. Like, all of the Trump supporters, they joke around about that, and they start out with MAGA, which is his regular hair. Then it's, ultra MAGA, where he has like this big coif of like blonde hair floating back. And then it's like mega MAGA, and it's just like a giant, I don't know, palm of hair sticking straight up into the... What is the meaning behind all this craziness on the left, other than the fact that they are just terrified? Yeah, well, that's the point. It's a great question, because they don't have any policy to talk about. They don't have any moving forward any wins. They don't have any successes for the American people. So all they can talk about is this narrative of fear. So if Jaws wasn't scary enough, then the Megalodon must be scary. So if MAGA wasn't scary, then MAGA, that's going to scare you. And I just don't think that people are buying into it. People want to hear solutions. They want to know what you're going to do to make their life better. And speaking of that, if you go to Greg Stanton's, and I'm not one for encouraging going to my opponent's website, but if you go to his campaign page, it literally says, even to this day, that his number one goal in Congress is to make your life better, and the results speak for themselves. And holy crap, if the results speak for themselves, Greg, it's time for you to drop out of this race. Because the people in this district are struggling. Your policies and your voting record has done nothing to help them. He's pretending to be conservative when he's voted with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time. I mean, the two things don't square up.
Well, that's true. And Greg Stanton, that's what I was going to ask you directly, because if you look at his voting record, if you look at his stance, I mean, it is in line, in sync with Biden all the way. And all you have to do is ask, like, what... For me, when I go across the country and I talk to folks, it doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, Independent. They're frustrated. People are sick and tired of the economy. They're tired of the rising gas prices, the rising grocery prices. I go to the grocery store. I can't even believe what's going on there. I understand, like you do, what it's like. And so many Americans are suffering right now. What is the difference? Tell everyone who's listening right now, for all of you out there, I know you have the same questions in mind. What is going to be different about you than the same old Greg Stanton?
Well, I think it's easy. I'm not a politician. I mean, frankly, I didn't ask for this. I was called to do this. I don't know that, or even really imagine that I'm going to like this job. But frankly, I think that the people deserve representation. And Greg Stanton, I mean, if you know the makeup of Arizona, he lives in David Schweikert's district. I mean, why is he even running down here? Why isn't he running against David Schweikert? And the answer is simple, because he knows he can't win there either. Greg has voted with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden 100% of the time. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I've been all over South and Central America, Cuba, South Korea, Okinawa. I've seen what oppressive regimes look like. I'm a small business owner. I own 3 restaurants, 2 of them in this district. So I sign the front of over 100 payroll checks every 2 weeks. I know the impact of over-regulation on businesses, and then I know the impact that has on the people that us small business owners are responsible to, which is our team, our staff. Greg has been a career politician. He's been a lobbyist and a lawyer, and then he's been in politics his entire life since then. And today he's in the fight of his life because the people recognize the difference behind somebody that is bought and paid for by Nancy Pelosi and somebody that's in there for the genuine betterment of the district. And that's me. My whole goal here, and I've set aside my life. We should be opening 2 more restaurants right now. I've set aside that part of my life because it's time for somebody to try to make a difference in this district. And based on what I said earlier about the results speak for themselves, is your life better than it was 2 years ago, Arizona? Is it better than it was 4 years ago? And he talks a big game about being centrist and working across the aisle, but he's literally never worked across the aisle. He's expected conservatives to come and vote for his policies, and the results of his policies are 13% inflation, skyrocketing costs, open borders, housing costs that's unaffordable, a water policy here in Arizona that's unsustainable. And he's been in office for times to be able to fix it and says he has worked on it. But we've seen no changes. We've seen no results. And at the end of this year, we lose almost 600,000 acre feet of surface water. Like, what has he done for 4 years other than make everything harder for us?
And
so
that
the difference is clear.
Right. And that is a huge issue for people in Arizona. I mean, I understand we have issues here with water in Texas. California is facing similar issues. And when you couple that with inflation, when you couple that with what happened during COVID, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, there's been so much news since then, but the ripple effects of even COVID on small business, I'm sure that as a small business owner, well, now you have 3 restaurants, you understand what it's like to have to make those payrolls every month, right? And keep your businesses going. that has to be a huge issue for people in Arizona. Like, we don't want that again. We don't want big government shutting us down, controlling our lives without any common sense, value to it, where it's just kind of like we're taking a shot in the dark. We're guessing that, Americans really want investigations into this. Yeah. Do you think that's really push the momentum in the direction? I mean, is it the economy? Is that the first major issue? Is the border the first major issue? What are you seeing as far as in Arizona?
They're 1A and 1B. Right. And we can put the economy and inflation together. It makes it 1A. And then here it's security, 1B. So it's the open border, it's border security. And then it's your personal security in your neighborhood. But you have fentanyl that's overrunning our communities. You have in Ahwatukee, it's a small community in South Phoenix that calls itself Ahwatukee, so it doesn't have to be known as the big city. A guy shot on the street and died. Like, these are real issues that are happening, and they're as a result of all the policies. Now, when you talk about the economics, I just read today that Amazon is halted all corporate hirings, that Lyft is laying off 13% of their staff. More relevant to this district specifically, Intel is on its third round of layoffs, so 15,000 people. These policies are coming home to roost, and it's crushing the people in not only this district, but all across America. And the signs are all there. You need somebody that understands these things, somebody that's built business, that can read a P&L. I mean, Greg probably doesn't even know what that means, but somebody that understands what a profit and loss statement, cash flow statements, how to manage a business, how to manage a budget, and making sure that it's used in the most effective and efficient way possible. And the results of Greg Stanton and by default Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden is literally oncoming layoffs, unemployment that's getting ready to go through the roof, a decline in our economic policies, and regression. We are in recession, whether they want to admit it or not. And I know that we just had a report said we were up 2%. But the truth is, if we're up 2%, why are all these companies laying off all these people?
Right. And there's a lot of economic indicators that are showing things are not going in the right direction, that we are going to see a lot more storms before any of this clears up. And we've got to be ready for this. I know that the Border Patrol, National Border Patrol Council backs you, law enforcement backs you. I think that's awesome because I have a lot of respect for our men and women in uniform and the people that are working so hard under these terrible conditions to protect our nation. Do you think, and let me just ask you about this, do you think we need to impeach Mayorkas?
Yes. He's completely derelict of his duty. There's not a different way about that. When you're put in a position, you have one responsibility, and the one responsibility you have is to uphold the duties of that job. Mayorkas will tell you that the border is secure. It's no different than Kamala Harris will tell you the border is secure. But I can take you on a trip. I've been down. I've gone to Yuma. I'm endorsed by the mayor of Yuma. I'm endorsed by the Border Patrol Agency. If we go down there and sit, we can count 1,000 people a day coming through the Yuma area. And now that it's colder, it's going to be 2,000 people a day. It's because Mayorkas isn't doing his job. It's because he's said, I'm not going to do it, just outright. It's like the DAs or the attorney generals that are saying, well, we're not going to enforce these laws. That's not your job. That's not your responsibility. You've been tasked with the enforcement and the completion of the duties of this job, not deciding what the duties of the job is. I don't hire people and say, well, you figure out what you want to do, and then we'll see if the business works. It's no wonder that we're failing at our border. So yeah, absolutely.
I agree. We got to fire Alejandro Mayorkas. His failure to lead the Border Patrol and even to stand up for truth is just astounding to me. And I think that a lot of people are going to be fired in the next few days from their jobs. I know I only got a little bit more time with you. I've got a couple of questions. First, do you see a big red wave coming? You think it's here?
So I would like to address that because specifically to my district, if we say red wave, red tsunami, then people feel complacent. Right. The old version of this district is used to losing by 20 points, and the pieces that we added are used to winning by 10 points. So those complacent Republicans have to know that the only way we have a red wave or red tsunami is if we show up. If we all show up and vote, then you're absolutely right. We are going to have the type of representation that will correct the problems that you're seeing today, whereas the current administration representatives only want to talk about demonizing the other side. We want to talk about solutions. They want to talk about making us the devil. So yes, it is coming if we all do our part. Absolutely.
Perfect. 3 most important issues for you that will not only, work to help the people in the state of Arizona, but the nation as a whole. 3 most important issues right now.
So committees that I want to be on are small business, education, and military. The 3 top issues for me in this district right now, and I put the economy and inflation together. So economy and inflation, security, meaning border security and personal security, and then water rights, followed very closely by education. There are a lot of issues right now in the district, but I'm uniquely qualified as a from the ground up business owner of multiple successful businesses and an overseas deployed military veteran to be able to handle security, small business, the economy. I have a 2nd and 3rd grader at home, and my daughter recites the preamble of the Constitution at events for us. K through 12 is something that we have to address in civics, and understanding how our democracy or our constitutional republic was built and the founding principles that we're on. And right now we're failing at that too. That is a larger issue that's going to affect America, and it's already affecting America.
I think those are great answers. And last but not least, well, a couple more, because I'm going to let you tell our listeners where they need to go to learn more about you. But before that, I am the wife of a veteran, a wounded veteran who is amazing and has, made such an incredible life even after his battle in Afghanistan with his loss of his eyesight. I think that, like you, I think that the Veterans Administration and other issues related to veterans, especially veterans' families, need to be addressed. As a veteran, what would you try to address, I think, off the bat, that you notice needs to be addressed, that isn't being addressed by this administration right now?
Yeah, I think it's the VA, it's veterans' mental health and the issues surrounding that. And by the way, because you didn't serve doesn't mean you didn't serve. So thank you for your services as well. Because your husband and his coming out challenges from Afghanistan, not only did you serve when he was over there, and now you're serving again. It's Veterans Affairs. I mean, I have 3 or 4 major issues that I think has to be addressed with veterans. One of them is the TAPS program, or the transition from active duty to being out in civilian life. Dealing with the VA and getting the information that you need, but also shortening lines because they're growing again, especially out here. Conservatorship that's running rampant in the veterans community, the mental health in the veterans community. I don't understand why we're spending so much money in all these other countries around the world, or taking people across the southern border and then putting them in military bases when you have basically homeless vets living right outside. I mean, where are our priorities in this country? So for me as a Marine Corps veteran, all service matters, and we have to work hard to make sure that we're addressing the deficiencies in the VA, the deficiencies in the treatment of mental health, especially veterans coming home from overseas service, and the transition program, because a lot of these young men and women that are coming out of the military have lived under somebody else's protection, either their home or the military, and then they're just thrown out on the streets as if they know how to take care of themselves inherently. The TAPS program has to be done better than it's been done up to this point.
Wow, thank God for you. This is really great. I mean, it's just, I hope you come back on my show. I know you're just going to win. I just know it in my heart. Where can my listeners go? Where can everybody go to learn more about you, to help you in the last stretch of this campaign? Where do they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So kellycooperarizona.com is our website. You can go there and check out who I am, what I'm all about. You can link to all of our social media pages. From there, you can volunteer. So if you don't live in the district, you can do phone banking and calling people and making sure people to show up to vote. If you live in the district, you can volunteer to be at events, work tables, come out and hang out with us. I'm sitting in the campaign office right now. And then if you don't want to do either one of those things, but you're blessed, then you can hit the Contribute Now button and you can contribute as much as your heart desires within federal regulations, because we need all of that to make sure our message gets out there. It's a contribution and not a donation. It's a contribution to the movement to save America. It's what we have to do. So any one of those things, but it is an election of the power of 10 because I'm outspent 30-1. Our voices matter. Share the secret of this campaign and make sure that we get over that hump, which by all accounts, we are going to come out on Tuesday as one of the 7 Republican seats in Arizona, and we're going to move this country forward. Absolutely.
Woo, I feel so positive. I feel so jazzed up. Everybody get out there, go to the website. Here is a veteran, a small business owner, a real conservative, somebody that cares more about the issues and the policies than about bickering. I think that's the most important thing. And I love hearing that. And I love the fact that we're going to have another veteran sitting in Washington, D.C., because it is so important. You have to have lived it, experienced it to understand it and to want to fix it. And I know you care about your brothers and sisters in arms, and that you'll do everything to fight for them. Thank you so much, Kelly Cooper, for being on the Sarah Carter Show. Everybody get out there, vote. We only got a few more days. It feels like it's like right here, it's on our shoulders.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up close. Listen, thank you very much. Semper Fi, and God bless all of you. God bless Arizona, and God bless America.
Thank you so much, Kelly Cooper. What a great interview. Everybody get out there and vote for Kelly Cooper. I mean, we've got a little bit of time left. Let's do it. Next on the line, waiting for me, is Leora Levy from Connecticut. She's running against Senator Richard Blumenthal. And now on the line with us, I'm so excited to have Republican Senate candidate from Connecticut, Leora Levy. It's so great to have you on the show, Leora. And just so everyone out there knows, you were born in Havana, Cuba. So we have that connection going for us. My mother was from Cuba. My family was from Cuba. You're Jewish American, and even better than all of those great things is you're running against Senator Richard Blumenthal. So I'm very excited about that.
Thank you for having me. And yes, on all of the above.
So tell me, what drove you to run in this? It's going to be a very contested race. I mean, it's Tuesday is tomorrow, and that's going to be just, I think we're seeing people going in droves to the polling stations. I know out here in Texas, I've been watching that. What drove you to want to serve in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I told my husband, I cannot not run. Our country is worth fighting for. I do not like the direction that they are trying to push our country. They literally are trying to fundamentally transform America. As my 91-year-old father says to me, Leora, if this country goes communist, where do we go next? There is nowhere. So I am fighting for our country. I want my children and theirs to have the same opportunity to live whatever is their American dream that you and I have had.
I agree with you. That's great, Leora, because I think from your perspective, and as a matter of fact, from every American's perspective, I mean, it is a fight for freedom and liberty. Everywhere I go, when I talk to people around the country, they're very distressed with, I won't even say the Democrats. I'll say this, it's far leftist ideology, this implementation, what we've been seeing, not only on the federal level, but in the local levels as well from, Democrats that are very far left, very extreme, is certainly a huge concern for Americans. Do you think having your background allows you to see that with such clarity? Because your family, like my family, they had been through it. They lived under communism.
Exactly. And, I see it in our school systems. It's frightening to me because one of the first things Castro did was to indoctrinate the children, especially against their parents. He indoctrinated them to spy and inform on their parents, and he tried to replace the parents in their minds as a father figure. And when you see the schools grooming kids, telling young children that they may not be the gender they were born, they can be the other, and they could change their name and don't tell their parents, that is exactly what's happening. And it's a direct attack on the American nuclear family, which is the basis for our culture, our society, our success as a country. So I'm very concerned.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely believe that. And I saw that, when I was covering the campaign in Virginia with Governor Glenn Youngkin, and I really saw, and I've brought this up before, I know for all of you who are listening out there, you've heard me say this before, but that was a real turning point in that election and actually across the nation, where parents kind of woke up in Loudoun County and said, no more. We're supposed to be the authority over our children. You're supposed to teach them. And Terry McAuliffe had come out and made these statements that, parents didn't have the right to interfere in what the schools were teaching their kids. And that was it for him. It was over at that point. I think that it's parents that are going to make a huge difference, and mothers in this election.
I agree with you. I'm a mother. I raised 3 sons. If anybody had told me I could not be involved with their education or with their schooling, they would have had a lot more than a tiger mom to deal with. No, they're our kids, not the government.
Well, and in Cuba, you're absolutely right. In countries like North Korea, which is extremely, extremely closed off to the rest of the world. And in China, we see the effects of education. I mean, that is a huge issue. I mean, and I think what you're saying is, and I know people out there understand this, is once they divide the child from the parental authority, the government wins, because now the child looks towards the government to solve their problems and to solve the crisis, and no longer looks to the nuclear family. Beyond dealing with, with the school situation and obviously all the issues that are surrounding our education system, what are the issues that you see as most important that you're not only going to be fighting for the people of Connecticut, but for the rest of the nation as a senator if you get to Washington, D.C.?
Well, just like the rest of the country, the economy, the high prices for everything from food to gasoline to home heating oil, everything is extremely expensive now. People are having a very hard time feeding their kids, filling their tanks. And here in the Northeast, we have a historic shortage of home heating oil and natural gas. We have very cold winters. This is going to be a serious public health problem when the weather gets colder. And this didn't have to happen. The inflation we're experiencing is a result of the trillions of dollars of wasteful spending by Joe Biden, rubber stamped by Dick Blumenthal, and the intentional war on American energy production by Joe Biden, rubber stamped by Dick Blumenthal.
That's a really good point, because Blumenthal has been, and I've seen this with a lot of the folks that are running, trying to separate themselves from Biden. But we see they've been just lock, stock, and barrel with Biden on almost every subject, on almost every issue, on almost every policy decision. And that's Blumenthal as well.
That Blumenthal has not tried to distance himself at all from Biden. He really touts that he supports President Biden's program to use our strategic petroleum reserve to try to bring prices down. That is reckless and foolish. That petroleum reserve is for emergencies. Exactly. It is not to regulate the price of oil, and it's a temporary fix. It's an election year gimmick, and last night in our debate, he was promoting that in order to bring prices down. He also called the Keystone Pipeline a minor, what did he call it? It was just a minor and inconvenience. It was something that was not really important, it's irrelevant to the price of oil. But what it is it means that oil is not getting from Canada to the Gulf to be exported to the rest of the world. That affects the price of oil overall. And he just doesn't understand business. He doesn't understand free markets because he doesn't believe in them. He just doesn't. He goes to the Communist Party. He lies about it. but his solutions are all so big government socialist solutions. He does not understand free markets.
No, not understanding free markets. And you brought up a really important point, is the national security implications of digging into those oil reserves. And that is something that I've talked to other folks about, that we have to contend with. And it is a short-term solution to a very long-term problem. And there's a lot of concern for families. I mean, this has got to be something you hear in Connecticut. I hear it all the time. Even here in Texas, I go to the grocery store, prices are through the roof. Families can't afford. They're paying double in some cases what they used to pay for just one cart full of groceries. Milk is up. I mean, there is a serious problem in our nation, and it's not just our country. But I'm wondering what the effects are going to be, the trickle down effects as winter hits. And you brought this up so succinctly, not just in the United States, but in Europe. And the Europeans are now facing a huge catastrophe looming as well. So this is about all of us and about changing policy before we have more self-inflicted wounds that we won't be able to get out of.
That's correct. And frankly, when it comes to the shortages we are all experiencing in different forms of energy, the answer is American energy production. We have the largest reserves in the world, and we produce it more cleanly than anybody else. Why wouldn't my opponent want good, clean American energy that produces good American jobs? You know, we were not only energy independent 2 years ago, we were a net exporter. We could alleviate the shortage internationally, but they won't let us. They have shackled our American energy production intentionally because they have these socialist green dreams. And, you know, you live in Texas. I remember last winter when the windmills froze.
That's right.
You had blackouts. You didn't have electricity. You didn't have heat.
That's exactly right.
Alternatives are fine, but they are not a replacement for good, clean American energy. We cannot rely on them. We are not at that point.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a difference between, supporting R&D, research and development, and looking at new alternatives and being realistic and having those capabilities here. So you actually believe, let's reopen, let's get that Keystone pipeline back up and running. Let's make that happen. Let's be the world's leader in energy. In fact, what the Biden administration has done, and those who support him, like Blumenthal, is really led Russia and our adversaries to holding the cards and holding the keys to the energy kingdom overseas. And that's a really, really dangerous place to be. Is that an area that you're going to be focused on if you get to the Senate committees? Are you going to be focused on that? And what else are you going to be focused on when and if you get to Washington, D.C.?
Well, I will be focused on reigniting American energy production. I will be focused on foreign policy. That's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
I was nominated to be ambassador to Chile by President Trump. I worked at the State Department for a year and a half in that process, and so foreign policy is really a strong area for me. I will also be working on commerce, on business. I was one of the first women international commodity traders in the world in my first career. I love business. I love economics. I am a policy wonk. So, those are the areas on which I will focus. Any area that I feel I can be helpful. I also want to do what I can federally to support our police. In Connecticut, like everywhere else, we have a problem with crime. Crime is off the charts. They have defunded our police. They removed their qualified immunity. They've created revolving door justice here. There's an anti-police climate in general. We had 2 brave cops diabolically ambushed and killed one, and a third seriously wounded just 2 weeks ago.
It was horrific. It was horrific. And I was going to ask you about that.
Horrible. Yeah, I was at their funeral. It broke my heart to see their young widows when they gave them the flags that had draped their coffins, and to see them hug the flags to their chests was just, it broke my heart, to be honest. I support our police, and I'm proud to have been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police in Connecticut. And one of my priorities will be to write legislation that makes federal funds to states and municipalities contingent on their providing qualified immunity for their.
Thank you.
They can't do their job without it.
100%. Thank you so much. That is so important. That is so important. And I'm sure that the police officers and the Fraternal Order of Police probably thank you for that. A lot of people don't realize how important that is, because a lot of men and women in law enforcement will leave. They'll walk away if they don't have that kind of protection. They deserve that. They deserve that kind of protection in the law. And I was going to ask you, because it is important to me too, foreign policy. And I travel off and on to Central America, and I'm going to be going to Mexico this month, looking at our neighbors to the south. A lot of concern over what's been happening there, especially with our adversaries like China building up its sourcing, Russia there as well. And we're seeing some of the countries turn to the left, much like Cuba and Venezuela. We're seeing problems in Nicaragua right now, Colombia, and in other areas. What do you think needs to be done on that level? Do you think we need to really start focusing on the Western Hemisphere?
Absolutely. And had unfortunately, I was ultimately not confirmed because I went through the entire process. It was a 2.5-year process. I passed every hurdle that they tried to put in front of me to resist and obstruct me because I was nominated by President Trump. But ultimately, I had my hearing. I was voted out of committee, and then Bob Menendez and Chuck Schumer decided they were angry about other things, and they blocked a whole group of State Department nominees.
Remember that.
Out of spite. So I never got to Chile, but, Chile is one of the countries that has suffered terribly. It has gone into the orbit of China in the time that there's been no American ambassador. There was no one there to speak up for freedom, for democracy, and they joined the Belt and Road program. Huawei wired their cities. One of the things I wanted to do was to make a long-term contract for the lithium production in Chile. China did that, so not only do they have their own lithium, but now they're going to control Chile's. And politically, Chile has gone very left. They elected a communist president. They voted to rewrite their constitution, and they elected a left-wing constituent assembly to do that. It's a shame because that didn't have to happen. And you can multiply that through many countries in South America because we haven't paid attention. And they're our neighbors. They are here in our hemisphere. China is really benefiting from that. And
well, it's almost as if China is setting up in a weird, strange way, a battlefield. It's almost as if China is setting itself up, and we're just ignoring this giant elephant in the room, right? We have a national security issue in our hemisphere, and we need people that have the right mindset and the right foreign policy education and ability to deal with this growing threat. And the left, and I don't know, maybe you have the answer to this. I know I'm keeping you longer than you expected, but it blows my mind that the left, Leora, the left is so ready and willing to hand over our allies to these, and I'm talking about our Democrats, our leftist regime here, but to the regimes, to our neighbors to the south. And in effect, that's a direct threat to the United States. Do you have any concept of why they do this?
Well, look, today's Democrat Party is not the same Democrat Party of the mid-20th century. They're just not. They have been radicalized. They are socialists, to put it politely. I would call it communist, but they are trying to fundamentally transform our country and the world. But we can't talk about Latin America without talking about the invasion at our border that is also inflicted on us intentionally by Biden, by Blumenthal, who supports it 100%, by Secretary Mayorkas, who was brought here from Cuba for freedom as a child as well. You know, we have a problem. Legal immigration is great for our country. It's healthy. We want more legal immigration. Right. But what's happening now is not immigration. It is an invasion, and it's bringing fentanyl, and it's bringing human trafficking, and it's bringing in gang members and terrorists and other drugs as well. It's a scourge on our country. Every state is a border state, including my state, because they are flying illegals to Westchester County Airport on the border of New York and Connecticut, 5 miles from my house, and to Tweed Airport in New Haven. And they, you know, they're bringing fentanyl. They're bringing human trafficking. We've had 8 babies die in Connecticut from fentanyl poisoning. We've had teenagers die. We've had young adults. It's decimating a generation of our children, and it's a terrible thing, and we must close that border. I will be working with Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar on her dignity plan. There are a lot of good things in it. I think I can make it even stronger because I've been working on immigration since 2008. That is a priority as well for me.
Oh, absolutely. I spend a lot of time at the border. I've spent 18 years of my life covering that subject in particular, as well as traveling throughout war zones. So I'm very familiar with that. And I think you're spot on when you talk about this. And to go even further, I mean, and it's got to be something that you focus on as well when you're looking at the border. I mean, we talk about it being a humanitarian crisis, and it really is. So if people actually care about the people that are being trafficked into our nation, you will want it to stop too. Just because we know so many children have been abused, so many people have lost their lives on this journey. Right. The only real benefactors of this horrific human trafficking organization and crisis is not just the Biden administration for one reason or another, but the drug traffickers and the narco traffickers and the human traffickers, these cartels. So why are we aiding and abetting these nefarious groups?
That is the question. Why? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense.
I would be arrested. I would be arrested for aiding and abetting a drug cartel, and our government is doing it every day.
That's right. And my opponent is silent.
Right.
He supports it.
While our children are dying.
Yes, they are.
And I want to give you the last word here. I know, you're busy, you're running, and you're getting wrapped up with your campaign here. The election is just literally around the corner. Where can people go to support you? What can we do to get our voices heard? What is the message that you want to deliver this day before election?
Thank you so much for that question. First, I'll give my website because I tend to forget that, so I'm going to do that first. It's Leora4CT.com, LeoraForCT.com. And I would appreciate any support people could offer because Connecticut is an old-fashioned election. 80 to 90% of our voters vote on Election Day. I'm still putting up more and more ads, and everything I raise goes to get my message out even more. So I really appreciate that. I'm running because I've never been so worried about our country. Joe Biden and Dick Blumenthal are crushing the American dream for Connecticut families, for every American family. All the problems we've discussed, the high prices that are making life unaffordable, the energy shortage that they created, that's contributing to inflation and to the high prices, the fact that our kids are not receiving a first-rate education. Their education has been politicized. They are being indoctrinated, not educated. There is lawlessness and just crime throughout our state. I know it's happening throughout the United States. And there's the invasion at our southern border that is bringing fentanyl and human trafficking into our communities. My family escaped communism, and we came here for freedom and opportunity. I'm running to make sure that my kids, your kids, and their kids have the same opportunity that we've had to live whatever is their American dream.
Wow.
And so I would really appreciate anybody listening in Connecticut, please vote on November 8th and make sure that your family and friends who are eligible to vote also, because that's how we win overwhelming numbers.
Leora Levy, you are the American dream. And I believe it's people like you and people from all over the world that have come here for a better life that make this nation richer, stronger, and better. And that is the reason why you did so phenomenal in your debate against Richard Blumenthal, because people saw someone who really cares, not someone who's just trying to retain a position in government, but somebody who actually wants to work for the people. And there is nothing quite like that. You're an awesome servant of the people. I certainly wish you the best. Everybody get out there and vote. It is our responsibility to put the right people in office, like Leora Levy, who are going to fight for us, who are going to do the job that we ask them to do, because they work for us. We don't work for them. Thank you, Leora, for fighting for America.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to the time we can meet in person, it was very nice to get to know you.
Before I sign off, I want to give you guys an update on an exclusive story that was written by my good friend, Bill Gertz. I've known him forever, probably one of the premier experts on China, as well as national security, bar none, in Washington, D.C. He has this incredible story. I'm going to read some of it to you. It's from the Washington Times, and it's actually pretty terrifying. I mean, it goes to show you what a failure this administration, the Biden administration, has been, and what it's potentially doing to the security of our country with its horrific decisions. The Biden administration has quietly reduced the role of nuclear weapons in American defense strategy. Listen to this: by eliminating a decades-long policy of using nuclear arms to hedge against future developments and threats. The U.S. is shifting its policy just as China and Russia increase the sizes of their strategic arsenals and upgrade their doctrines on when to use nuclear weapons in a conflict. And we've already seen what's been happening in Ukraine. We've already seen the Russians threatening to use a nuclear arsenal or a nuclear armament against the Ukrainian people. And even if it's in a limited capacity, holy cow. Really? Really? I mean, think about this. We're living so close to a nuclear disaster. I mean, we couldn't even have thought this when Trump was in office. Now, I mean, the clock is ticking and we're almost there. The full story is in the Washington Times. Let me read this little part to you, the latest nuclear posture review quietly eliminates a formal role for the U.S. nuclear arsenal as a hedge against an uncertain future. The phrase was included, of course, in the Trump administration's 2018 nuclear posture review and 3 earlier reviews. Every word and phrase is carefully calibrated and parsed in the document, and nuclear policy analysts say the change in language could result in the elimination of hundreds of stored nuclear weapons. Critics of the change say the weapons are needed as a backstop arms control talk and could be deployed to respond to any large-scale breakout by nuclear rivals. And folks, the scary thing is, the Russians have already threatened it. Why in the world would the Biden administration even make this kind of gesture, even do this with our nuclear arsenal and play these kind of games, unless they want to weaken us purposefully against these horrific adversaries like Russia and China? We are less safe today, and we've got to keep our eyes open, folks. Now I'm going to say it. Tomorrow cannot come fast enough. 2024 cannot come fast enough. Follow me on Twitter at Sarah Carter DC, on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless all the candidates out there doing their job to protect our country and to fight for our nation's fundamental core values. And you know what? God bless everyone who puts in a vote, right? Because this is the process in America. This is the American dream. We are all living it, and we should all be blessed to have it. And God bless the great state of Texas.